Before we dig in, a quick thank you to the sponsors ready to grow with the Soil Sisters. Tejas Tonic is the official beverage of the Texas Soil Sisters. We especially love that the hemp for Tejas Tonic is organically farmed in the Texas Hill Country, with farms in both Dripping Springs and Lukenbach, Texas. The Soil Sisters podcast is powered by B&P Electric. Whether you're building, remodeling, installing low-voltage landscape lighting, or in need of an inspection, B&P is your Central Texas electrical contractor. Find links to our sponsors in the podcast show notes or head over to txsoilsisters.co. You're listening to the Soil Sisters podcast, where we dig in on family farming and ranching, regenerative agriculture, healthy living, and planting seeds in our community. We invite you to listen, subscribe, and grow with the Soil Sisters. Hi, y'all. I'm Joanna Newting, joined by my blood, soul, and soil sister, Crystal. Welcome to the show.
Hi, sister.
Grand Rising on this Monday morning.
Yes, up and at 'em so early, and we appreciate that. We're excited about this podcast this morning to share some information with everyone that we need and we feel like y'all need too.
It's been a while that we've had Kristy Oates on our Soil Sisters podcast bucket list. So, Kristy, welcome to the show. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you for asking me to be a part of your show today. I'm really excited to talk about conservation, talk about the Natural Resources Conservation Service, and look forward to digging in.
Kristy Oates, she is the state conservationist for the USDA Natural Resources Conservation Services in Texas. Kristy leads a diverse workforce of approximately 600 employees in 228 field offices across Texas to deliver voluntary private lands conservation assistance throughout the estimated 142 million acres of farms, ranches, and family forests. Kristy holds a Bachelor of Science from Sam Houston State University and is a graduate of the USDA Emerging Leaders Development Program from the George Washington University Center for Excellence in Public Leadership. And we first met Kristy probably 3.5 years ago at our first state technical committee meeting. And we've been a fan ever since. So excited to hear what you have to say today and share your voice with our audience, Kristy. Thank you.
Yes, thanks again for having me. I look forward to today's discussion and really hope to educate your audience and all your listeners and better explain how they connect with us and how we can help to serve them as they reach their goals and objectives, not only for conservation, but for their production of agriculture products.
So tell us, what is the history of NRCS?
Yes, certainly. NRCS, I'm super excited. In April, we'll be 91 years old. The agency began out of the Dust Bowl. Hugh Hammond Bennett is considered the father of soil conservation. He initially helped establish the Soil Erosion Service to work on watershed-based demonstrations, and it was under the Department of Interior. But during this time, while Congress was in session, the dust storm from the Great Plains made its way up to Washington, D.C., which ultimately resulted in the Soil Conservation Act of April 27, 1935, creating the Soil Conservation Service at USDA. And Bennett served as our first chief for the Soil Conservation Service until he retired in 1951. In 1994, the Soil Conservation Service became the Natural Resources Conservation Service. It really expanded because we looked at all the resources while we do our conservation planning. So the name change kind of highlighted our collective overall ecosystem approach to conservation.
So it is a government agency. You do answer to the government. I don't know where I'd heard that NRCS was kind of its own thing.
One way we are unique is we are one of, if not the largest, private lands voluntary conservation organization. So we are a non-regulatory agency. We work for the people to help serve the people for their conservation, and we are not regulatory. So that does set us apart from many other federal agencies.
All right, got it. So one of the things that we appreciate and where we have engaged more with NRCS is boots on the ground stuff. We met some of your agronomists out in the wild who led us to the state technical committee meeting where we ended up meeting you. So I know last year when there were a lot of cuts, a lot of the technical assistance, a lot of the boots on the ground stuff had gone away. What is the state of the NRCS technical assistance program right now?
We are definitely serving our customers through our core mission that has been in place for many, many years, and that is our boots on the ground. We have professionals who serve in various positions in all of our field offices, our 228 field offices across the state. We have soil conservationists, engineers, biologists, agronomists, and other technical suites that help, wildlife biologists and others who help to serve all of our customers and bring in that expertise to always keep the work that we're doing science-based, and making sure that we are providing the most up-to-date information to our farmers, ranchers, and foresters that we can for their decision-making throughout the conservation planning process.
You have agronomists, you have all these technical folks in the field. How do we as farmers and ranchers get access to them? If I have questions, where do we go?
I encourage everyone to go into their USDA Service Center. We have an office in almost every county across the state of Texas. That's where you can connect not only with the Natural Resources Conservation Service, but you can establish farm records with our partner agency that is in most of our offices, which is the USDA Farm Service Agency. We work hand in hand to make sure that we have the information available not only from the records management side, but also from the conservation side to deliver our programs, whether they're technical assistance or our financial assistance programs. All of our offices and information can be found on our USDA Natural Resources Conservation Service website. You can look up your conservationist, your office, where it's located, the phone numbers, and reach out anytime, schedule an appointment, and really get to know the local staff at your field offices.
So are there more field office agents or less than there were in 2024, 2025?
We have had some decrease in staff, but we are certainly available to serve all across the state of Texas. And so we have resources and work with some of our conservation partners to make sure that we are meeting the needs of our producers.
Can anyone just go in and say, hey, could we make an appointment? Can you come out to my farm? Could take a look at this 30 acres. Does the farmer need to pay for that? Is it just a service that's available to them? Do they have to be in process of applying for a certain kind of conservation program? What's the stipulations to get that assistance?
We are 100% no cost. So our services are made available essentially through tax dollars to be able to service producers of all sizes. You do not have to apply for a specific program to be able to get technical assistance. You can simply make connection with our field offices, essentially talk about what your place is, what your goals and objectives are, and schedule a time for one of our professionals to come out to the field and take a look, walk the property, get to know more about, as I mentioned, the goals and objectives of the producer, but also walk through all the natural resources on the property and have that one-on-one discussion to better educate, inform. And then, of course, during the planning process, we will outline any potential financial assistance opportunities if someone is interested in that. But it is not mandatory. It's all voluntary, and we can certainly develop a conservation plan just for the technical assistance.
I love that. I hadn't even thought of that, sister. So great question and fantastic answer, because I love that. If you just need the help and want to know, and you're not necessarily looking for assistance, but then also while they're out there and they see what's happening and they see ways that you can be helped, I think that is absolutely fantastic. Yay.
So, Kristy, how long have you been with the NRCS?
I have been with the NRCS for over 30 years. I started as a soil conservation technician in 1995. I am from Freestone County, Texas, born and raised. I grew up on a cow-calf operation. We also had truck crops, and we had farm-raised catfish. So as an only child growing up in agriculture, I had lots of firsthand experience in all of the operation, each and every component, sometimes daylight to dark and after. So I was blessed to have the opportunity to have that background. When I was in high school, I was very involved in 4-H and FFA. And since it's National FFA Week, I will definitely provide a shout out. And that really set the foundation for where I am today. All of the training and the leadership opportunities. I served as a Area 8 FFA officer, district officer, a chapter officer. And actually, when I went on to college, I served as the collegiate FFA president at Sam Houston State University. So that helped to set the foundation for who I am today as far as an agricultural leader. I also had the opportunity to work for the local soil and water conservation district as a district technician when I was in high school. So that really set the pace and the foundation that launched my career with NRCS.
I really do love that. We were heavily involved in the 4-H and FFA growing up and doing all the competitive stuff. Yeah, I mean, it just makes really good, strong kids.
Ability to handle things that you didn't know you could handle, but willing to sit in there, get in there and do it, because it's not always pretty and it's not always easy, but it has to get done. And then you feel so much better and more capable and competent and strong and proud of yourself. And yeah, I think that that's something that kids in this age of technology who don't get in there and mix it up and get their hands dirty and work with things in the real world, I think they're really missing out. So I appreciate and want to support all things farming, ranching, producing that get people involved in nature.
So in 30 years, you've seen a lot of changes in NRCS. So from where it started to where you are now, like, highlight some of the things that you're most proud of that you've seen over the course of the last 30 years.
Yeah, definitely. A lot has changed in 30 years. But at the same time, our core mission of helping people help the land has stayed the same. While technologies have changed, while we're able to have most everything at our fingertips, which we certainly did not have when I began. There was only, computers were barely out. We had one computer in the whole office that served the whole staff. You still received everything by mail. All of the things from emails to having your computer to being able to pull up resource data at your fingertips versus hard copy files of maps and soil surveys that were in the books, to the type of instruments that you used in the field, from dumpy laser levels to new technologies that have come a very long ways. But the core of what we do is really the beauty of it. So the planning process, the 9 steps of planning have not changed. Our ability to connect with landowners and operators to help them help the land has not changed. Back when I started my career, there was a conservation plan from my great-grandfather from our operation from the 1940s. And that really sets the tone when you think about it. The value that our great-grandparents saw in conservation and to work to leave the land better than when you found it, while still being able to feed your family, is vitally important. And that's still the case today. While we may have a very small percentage of individuals that are in agriculture, maybe 2%, we feed a growing world, not only the United States, but beyond.
If you're working to build healthier soil and grow better food, every choice on your land matters, including how you manage weeds. And that's where Firehawk bioherbicide comes in. Firehawk is a fast-acting, non-selective contact herbicide that controls many common broadleaf and grassy weeds. Its active ingredient is nonanoic acid, a fatty acid that works on contact by drying out unwanted green vegetation, with visible results in hours, leaving no residual weed control in the soil. From gardens and homesteads to vineyards and regenerative farms, Firehawk can be used for careful spot treatments around crops, landscapes, and non-crop areas. And now, Firehawk is available in super concentrate, giving growers flexible, high-performance weed control that mixes easily with water. Learn more at firehawkbioherbicide.com and use code SoilSisters15 to save 15% on your purchase. That's SoilSisters15 for 15% off at firehawkbioherbicide.com. So if we were to just, kind of jump into some of the programs that NRCS funds for farmers and ranchers and just give an overview of it, where do we start? I feel like maybe is EQIP the largest program?
It is probably our program in highest demand. While it may not be the largest overall, it is definitely our most popular program in Texas. And EQIP is our Environmental Quality Incentives Program. That particular program can address just a few resource concerns. It has the opportunity to have a very short program agreement, if you will. So if you're coming into the office and are just looking to address a couple of resource concerns, maybe implement a couple of conservation practices, and then, move on with your operation, that is one that many people use and go to regularly. From there, we have our Conservation Stewardship Program, or CSP. It is more of an enhancement program. So it is taking your operation, your whole farm operation, essentially to the next level. So we meet producers where they are, but it's really taking that conservation up a notch, if you will. So increasing those environmental benefits across the whole farm. And some people will transition from EQIP into CSP and certainly work through it that way. The Environmental Quality Incentives Program can be on one field. It can be on your whole farm. It has a great deal of flexibilities to meet the farmers and put the farmers first in their decision making.
So are things like the Bluetooth collars, the fenceless systems, which program does that fall under?
They can fall under any of those programs, actually. The virtual fencing system is a relatively new opportunity that NRCS is certainly embracing due to the advancements in technology. We are able to work with the ranchers and be able to design a system that will work for them for their virtual fencing needs. So for those who are interested in that, we certainly will work with them to adopt that new technology.
And so things like getting assistance on building a new fence or those little one-off type things, can you apply for that stuff at any point? Are there deadlines for things like this in the EQIP program or wherever that falls?
Great question. We accept applications year-round for all of our conservation programs. We will announce various time periods, what we call batching dates, which are times and timelines which, if you have an application in by that given date, then you will be essentially ranked and assessed for funding. And those are periodically announced each and every year based on funding availability, and we work through the process that way to determine those that are interested, in financial assistance, to offer them the opportunity to move forward with an agreement to implement practices with the federal assistance to help be able to get that conservation on the ground.
And is funding done where it's like, okay, I'm going to pay for it and then I will be reimbursed X percent? How is that timed for the farmers?
Sure. For EQIP, we have, and for all of our programs, we have a payment schedule. Those payment schedules can be found on our website, which outlines the payment rates per conservation practice. So for each practice, there is a set rate based on a unit amount that participants know ahead of time. If you're putting in 1,200 feet of fence, that you're going to get X amount based on per foot of installed practice. So during the planning process, for the folks who are looking to move to financial assistance, we provide practice implementation requirements. So we outline and provide the technical information to be able to plan and design the conservation practices that they are wanting to implement. And it gives an estimate of the amount of needs, units, the measurements, whatever the case may be. If it's a farm pond, the cubic yards, all of the things that go into applying that practice. And then upon completion of the practice, we check it out to make sure that it's meeting our standards and determine the actual amounts or units applied. And then we provide payment at that point upon completion to be able to assist with getting that conservation adopted.
Okay. So let's talk a little bit about the conservation easement stuff, because we have so many farms and ranches that we're losing every day. And there's so many people that their family, they're analyzing, okay, what do we do? Who can do it? Who wants to do it? And, there's always someone in the family that looks to the new developer and like, well, we can get a few million if we just do this. So, I feel like the conservation easement program is very important.
It is vital. It's a great opportunity. And NRCS is partnering with local governments and land trusts to ensure that our farmlands are preserved for future generations. With the nation losing 5,000 acres of farmland per day, it's essential that we work with our programs and our tools to be able to help keep working lands working. Texas alone is losing 1,000 acres per day for development and non-agricultural use. And this is where our agriculture conservation easement program, and specifically our ag land easements, come in as a tool for us to be able to work with land trust who work directly with those farmers and ranchers and foresters to be able to get an easement and secure that for perpetuity, for forever, to make sure that those lands remain in agricultural production.
And, and this is just some of the farmers that we know, their experience right now. There's a friend of ours here in town, and he's trying to preserve the 1,000 acres of farmland that is from his own family. And he's struggling to convince the landowners around him to wait or to get in line to participate in this program. And it's taking 2 to 3 years to close a deal and to get it done. And so how do we streamline the process cut through all of the red tape to make this something that is more appealing and enticing for these families to participate in the program versus, sell out.
Exactly. As you know, whenever you are working on an easement or any kind of real estate transaction, there are a lot of steps and processes. However, NRCS is taking a hard look and from our standpoint, really working to, just like you mentioned, streamline those efforts. What steps and how can we make it quicker, faster, better? So it's certainly something that Chief Aubrey J.D. Betancourt is working hard to make sure that we are a vital asset to be able to make that transaction and to make that transaction more timely to be able to secure those lands. As you mentioned, there's many times a lot of family members involved, and you certainly want to be able to work collectively with the land trust. We work directly with the land trust, who then works with that family to make that happen.
Crystal attended the last STAC meeting without me. I had to be in California for work, and so she came back and she was talking about you being excited about some transitions and changes happening this year. Are some of those processes being put into place right now to streamline that process? Or, where are you seeing things getting better and tightening up with the NRCS?
Yes, I am very, very excited in the direction that we're headed to streamline not only our agricultural land easement programs, but all of our programs. We are really cutting out a lot of the extra administrative work on our staff, on our field offices, as well as reducing the paperwork for our landowners to be able to move through the process, to get dollars in the hands of the agriculture producers to be able to get conservation on the ground, whether that's securing an easement or whether that's putting individual conservation practices across the landscape. A lot of the work that we're doing is bringing systems up to date. There are some backbones and some infrastructure that is certainly being increased for our field staff. There are pages and pages of guidance that has been removed, or policy that's kind of been removed to be able to move through, but still remain very technically sound throughout the process. So I am excited about that. I'm certainly excited about our opportunity for the Regenerative Pilot Program. That's another effort that has come about through really whole farm planning, getting us back to our core soil and water resources, and streamlining efforts, kind of all packaged into one. So I'm really excited about that opportunity.
Me too. Do we know how much out of the $700 million that Texas gets for that regenerative agriculture?
So the funding is nationwide. We never know exactly the amount of funding that goes to a particular state. We work through the application, the ranking, the funding process. And so while we may have some initial funding, our funding is on a fiscal year. So that runs through September 30th. So we will know more as we move throughout this year, but very, very excited. And I would encourage anyone who maybe has an interest in it and has not applied yet to certainly reach out to our offices, have that discussion. And as we talked about before, you can apply for that program at any time.
Perfect. I'm glad you said that, because January 15th was like a deadline. And so then I wasn't sure what happened after that. So that's
yes, that was a national deadline that was announced. Obviously, we went through the government shutdown, and so coming out of the shutdown, it really set a time frame across the nation to kind of have that set benchmark for batching applications and then working through the process.
So, to be a farmer ranch that participates in the Regenerative Pilot Program, are we looking at, these are people that are coming to you and it's for an entire farm experience, or like
for example, Crystal and I, our family's ranch is 5,000 acres. We are doing an experiment off-ramping from conventional to regenerative on a 30-acre parcel. So is the pilot program designed for someone to incorporate their entire operation, or can it be on just a small parcel?
Great question. There are some flexibilities with this program. What it does outline is a whole farm assessment. Once that assessment is done, there may be parts of farms that may either be leased out, different ownerships, different structures that it may be where, it works best for the producer, the operator to really focus on particular areas based on their structure of their operation and their makeup of what that looks like. So through the Environmental Quality Incentives Program, there is some abilities to work through that. If you're working through the Regenerative Pilot Program, through the Conservation Stewardship Program, however, that is all-encompassing. So it would be for all operations that the operator has control over. So there's a little bit of difference there, but other than that, the program is set up the same, where there are primary regenerative practices that the producer either needs to be currently applying or will adopt during the 5 years of the plan. And there's soil health testing requirements, which are biological soil health testing. And it is a minimum of a 5-year contract.
Outstanding. And is there a per acre price that your cost savings that you get, or cost splitting that you get, or is it based on the different practices?
It is based on the practices, which is based on that overall payment schedule that is established. It is, like I said, a pilot, and we're certainly seeking feedback and looking for ways to, really assess the program this year, see how it's working with these efforts. But the pay rates are set and are established just as they are for other practices.
And have you had very many Texas farms and ranches apply for the program yet?
There are lots of people certainly in discussion, and as our planners are working through the planning process, it is certainly mentioned, and then producers can decide if that's the way they want to go, if they want to capitalize on their regenerative pilot program, or if they are looking at, their goals and objectives may not align and they move through their traditional EQIP and CSP funding.
Now, this is a random out in left field question because I'm a storyteller and I've been podcasting for so long. Does NRCS have someone or something that kind of goes through and follows some of these farmers that are starting this program to just see what the life of the program is through the farmer's eyes? Are y'all doing anything like that?
We do that essentially through the relationships that we have with the local field staff. And actually, step 9 of our planning process is the follow-up step. So many times folks don't think about that or don't realize that the follow-up is really to look back, to circle back to those farmers, ranchers, and foresters that we've been working with to see, okay, so we planned this practice, you implemented this, how is it, what's the outcome? What does that look like? What are those metrics for you? What can be done different? Are there other practices now that we have assisted with this? Is there something else that should be done next? Are you seeing things that you now want to move into a next phase or another phase for planning or regenerative operations? Or has some other new technology come out? So it is a continuous living document, if you will. That conservation plan is really the basis of our work and what we do. And that is certainly how we circle back and follow to see if things are working or what adjustments need to be made. And each place is unique. There's no one size fits all. Each piece of land is different and each operator is different.
Yes, this is a true story for sure.
So, yes, but it does sound like that we need someone, sister, going around and checking with these folks and
I
having Texas people following the process and even talking to the field officers about their experiences and, what they're seeing happen.
Well, and I will say that when we have visited our friend Tim Auld here, I feel like he's probably a model farmer for working the NRCS programs. He has a binder and everything is organized and color coded, and each thing that he's applied for, it's all put in order because there is some sort of method to that madness. And when I see it, I have an anxiety attack because I'm not quite that organized. And so what are some of the things that farmers can and should be doing to make their lives easier and make their participation in these programs go smoother?
Great question. And I appreciate the visual dialogue of how various people track and keep records and manage their operations. Some people are very much everything planning on an electronic device, whether that's your phone or some other planner. And then there's those, and I'm kind of more of the paper hard copy kind of person, but there's all kinds. So there's no one way to keep records. But what I do encourage folks to do is just make notes. As you keep up with your operation, most people are keeping up with their income and expenses, but I would also just keep maybe a note or journal of what you're seeing on the landscape. How are things going? A lot of that circles back to current conditions, rain, drought, various timeline for freeze dates and all the things that impacts agriculture day in and day out. But I do think just keeping a journal, if you will, or some notes on things that are working, and also keeping up with all the opportunities that are available. Many times there are various initiatives that the Natural Resource Conservation Service has that may only be in a certain part of the state, while our other programs are statewide. There's a lot of different opportunities from time to time, as well as other funding avenues, be it state or other partners who may have funding for various needs. So I just think keeping abreast of information. And people also like getting information differently. Some people like email. Some people use websites. Some people like hard copy, something coming to them. So, but we do keep information updated on our USDA NRCS website. We also try to put information into newsletters that go out typically through jointly with the Farm Service Agency. So we do try to keep messaging going. And then, of course, that local connection with your field office is vitally important to stay up to date.
So tell us, for farmers, ranchers, producers, what information are they going to need to bring into the office to start the process? So that, because I feel like you're talking about streamlining, they've got to have this basic information, the lease agreement. What kind of information are they going to need to get this process started?
Right. If you are interested in setting up official records and getting a farm and tract number with the Farm Service Agency, which would be something that you would need if you're wanting to move to financial assistance. If you're just looking for technical assistance, a lot of that information is not needed, other than the fact that you will either need to own the property, or if you lease it, have something that you can show that you actually lease it. And then if there's going to be permanent type conservation practices put on your place, we would want to have that concurrence from the landowner. And that's really just making sure everyone's on the same page with what's going on the landscape. If you're coming in, I would certainly reach out to the Farm Service Agency and ask them what all they would need to establish your farm records. Usually, it's a deed or deed lease agreement, those types of things, being able to locate the property on a map. If you have a plat, it's not required, but at least be able to find the property and identifies those boundaries when you set up your records with the Farm Service Agency.
So that means, like here in Lockhart, our USDA office, you walk in, on the left is the FSA office, on the right is the NRCS office. So your first business, you're going to the FSA office. You're getting everything situated. And then once there's that record built within the FSA office, then you can move over to the NRCS office.
Yes. However, I would say if you're, like I said, you can certainly start with us for just conservation technical assistance without having records established, if you will, with the Farm Service Agency. So we will work with you either way. But if it's something that you're going to want to do long term or move into financial assistance, then certainly I would get your records established. One of the things that's being worked on is what's called a one farmer, one file. As these systems and technologies come together, there will be additional streamlining efforts to where it's kind of one unique database and not having to have so many touch points back and forth between. So you will have that master record. So one farmer, one file to follow that landowner, that operator, no matter where they go for services.
Awesome. So then would I, as a farmer, be able to log in and look and see my one farmer, one file so we all see what I have?
It is definitely you would be able to. It's not public record, so it's certainly something. It's very much yours and yours alone. But the vision is for you to be able to get to it online, to be able to fill out forms, sign documents, do all of the things that you would need to do at the office to be able to get that essentially where you can have it at your fingertips. So a lot of work still to be done there, but the vision is there. There's a lot of energy and effort being put into making advancements so that we keep farmers first. We know that many people either work in agriculture as a second job, or if it's their primary job, they may not have availability during what we would call our normal work hours. So this will also offer some flexibilities for them to be able to do business that's outside of that timeline too. So a lot of goals in the work there, but certainly looking forward to where we're headed.
You know, there are so many opportunities that it can become overwhelming. And all of the conservation practices, I know all of this stuff lives on the NRCS website, but sometimes you can get lost looking for the needle in the haystack to find what you need, what you want, what serves you. Is there anything going to be done to streamline the searching for us?
Yes, I am hopeful in there too. I fully understand that all of our conservation practice standards are online, but with almost 200 standards, you can get sidetracked pretty quick because you can pick up on one and then want to learn more about another, and then you're headed down into hours and hours of research into all the science behind how and what we do to build out these conservation practices. So you are right, the information is there, but we are certainly looking to make it easier and overall better for our farmers.
What about on some of these conservation practice standards we've looked at before? A lot of times there's not like a termination practice that feels like it's in line with regenerative practices. So now that there is more of a focus on regenerative agriculture, are these practice standards being reviewed and evaluated to see how they could turn into a regenerative plan?
Yes, absolutely. Yes. So we are, this administration has taken a direction to collect information and feedback on our conservation practice standards. They are typically on a 5-year renewal process. Some of them have been out of sync or behind, if you will, on their renewal. And so we are wanting and collecting information to be able to provide those comments and the feedback on the various conservation practice standards in their life cycle and getting all of those conservation practice standards up to date. And so those are certainly things that NRCS is looking to capture and really listening to those who are using the various practices, what's working, what's not working, if there are new technologies or other things that need to be looked at and addressed. Then those are very specific things that we are looking to collect.
So during this in-between time, if you will, as you're collecting that stuff, can a farmer come and say, hey, this is how I want to terminate this? It's not listed in this practice standard, but is it okay if I do this instead?
Yes, certainly bring up those questions. The state resource conservationist and the state conservation engineer are the various leads, depending on if it's an engineering practice or another technical practice outside of the engineering scope, that they are able to work through those. So anytime someone has a question or a comment or a need that may not be just specifically stated in that standard, please do reach out so we can have that discussion and determine if there's some variances or some other things that we can do to best help meet those goals and objectives. So we certainly want to take a look at those and work through that process with the landowner.
Excellent. Yes. Say something. If you see something, say something. It works all the time.
Another way to kind of voice that and bring that information is certainly through our local work groups, which are typically hosted by the soil and water conservation districts across the state. There are 216 soil and water conservation districts, and they hold those local work group meetings, and they can certainly capture that feedback and elevate that up to the state technical committee.
Sister, did you go to that meeting here in Caldwell County?
Yes.
Yeah, and there weren't very many farmers that attended, correct?
There was maybe 15 people there, something like that.
But the point was getting an idea from the farmers. What is your priority?
Exactly.
And, and I know that we say all the time, farmers be farming. They don't want to, stop what they're doing and come into town and sit down for these meetings. But in all honesty, they don't take very long. And if you don't share your voice and tell people what you need, then they can't advocate for you.
Yeah. Yes, because that handful of people were the ones who decided what was important, and which fortunately we were there to say, organic material in the soil health, whatever. But yeah, if you don't say what's important, then people don't know what's important on your land and for you.
That's the beauty of the grassroots conservation efforts, is really getting what we see, what the communities are seeing and hearing, what's out there on the landscape. Are there pressure points locally that's causing some resource concerns that really do shape that local program?
So, Kristy, when we talk about Texas farming and ranching, the water situation comes to mind. So what are some of the things that you can tell us about that NRCS is focusing on when it comes to water conservation, water restoration on our landscapes that we would want to send people to learn more about and get involved with?
Yes, with one of our core resources being water, we certainly have many of our conservation practice standards that are working to either address overall water resources. So whether it's different types of irrigation methods, whether it is water conserving opportunities such as building in cover crops to really have that land act like a sponge and utilize all of the water, whether it's removing brush, which whether it's cedar or mesquite or all of these other species that are sucking up so much of the valuable water that could be producing forage, then certainly we have conservation practices for that. We also have initiatives like the National Water Quality Initiative, which really focuses on water quality. So looking at the nutrients and what is getting in our waterways, whether it's sediments, nutrients. So we're trying to essentially trap, control, or avoid certain things to make sure that our watersheds are protected. And conservation buffers, riparian buffers, the different cropping types, rotational cropping. There's just so many different things that come into play when you talk about water, and certainly something that we look at when we look at the whole farm process. We also have our Petronilla Creek project, which is a project specifically in Nueces County, but it is also a nutrient reduction type of project that has some funding available that was actually a part of the Deepwater Horizon oil spill that occurred many years ago. So those funds are still dedicated to natural resource and recovery efforts.
And so someone attending these meetings with the Soil and Water Conservation District in their county can say, hey, I need help with water restoration, and then this can get moved up the priority list so that potentially funds like this do become available for that county. Is that how that works?
Yes, and if there are certain projects that a county or a group of counties identify, that's kind of that locally led voice where an area may receive some additional funding or some dedicated funding to a particular area to address a resource concern. It doesn't mean that that funding will be there forever, but we do like to dedicate funding to specific project areas for a few years in hopes to make that concentrated impact, to make a positive environmental impact before, moving on to another project.
I'm going to kind of put you on the spot. Are there any stories from farmers or ranchers from these, the last couple of years that you can think of that have really inspired you about how a family farmer ranch has utilized what is offered by NRCS to just make some, big sweeping changes to their land?
Yes, we have a number of success stories, and we certainly enjoy the opportunity to highlight producers where we can. It is those producers that make the difference. We're just along to support, but the stories that they provide, the outcomes that they see, we really want to focus everything that we do on NRCS to really bring that focal point back to the producer, to give them the ability to have those outcomes and the metrics that maybe they can take to another marketplace, or it helps them to market their product. But back to your question, everything from producers recovering from a natural disaster, whether it be the Hill Country floods last July or the huge wildfires in Texas a couple of years ago, from those devastating type of disasters to coming out and being back in production and making a living is vitally important. We hear things from our small producers also, who certainly have capitalized on the increase in annual funding for, let's just say, Conservation Stewardship Program, the minimal annual payment went up on that to $4,000 per year. And that has made a huge difference for many of our small producers if they are in that program, because if they're carrying out and advancing their conservation, enhancing it to that next level, then they are getting that increased payment along with the other practices that they may be implementing. So it definitely makes a difference. And when you can essentially keep food on the table, then it makes it all worth it at the end of the day.
So Crystal and I are considered new farmers. We got our farm number a couple of years ago. And so I believe it is for 10 years we are considered novice farmers. What is the incentives for new farmers versus traditional farmers that have been doing it for a long time?
Sure. Our beginning farmer and rancher program is available. And as you mentioned, for 10 years, that comes with an opportunity for some increased payment rates and the ability to also have some dedicated funding or some funding that is set aside essentially for beginning farmers and ranchers through our various programs.
And so it's not an exact percentage all the time.
Yeah, I would say for all USDA programs, there are certainly differences. For NRCS. Beginning farmers and ranchers have, like I said, have an increased percentage also.
Okay. Is there anything that we haven't asked you that is important to showcase around NRCS and the work that y'all do?
Well, I will certainly talk about a couple of other programs that we have. We have opportunities, and I kind of mentioned disasters earlier. So we have our Emergency Watershed Protection Program that assists communities in recovery efforts. If they're having erosion, flooding, other measures, it can certainly help with resource recovery. We have our Watershed and Flood Prevention Operations Program to assist communities in managing and protecting watershed and mitigating, again, flooding, erosion, and sediment. And of course, we have our Watershed Rehabilitation Program. Some of you may see what we call our flood prevention structures that have been built many, many years ago across the state, and some of them have outlived their 50-year lifespan. And with all of the development around some of these, the hazard classification on some of these dams have increased, and there's been a need for rehabilitation on many of them because they're still serving a great purpose. Again, going back to the water and really being able to, during flooding seasons and others, to be able to capture some of that water, slow it down, and release it so it doesn't cause as much infrastructure damage to agriculture, crops, and commodities downstream. It also helps with sediment control as well. We have our Regional Conservation Partnership Program, and that's a partner-driven approach to conservation that funds solutions to natural resources challenges on agricultural lands. It's a very popular program. We also have such things as our Conservation Innovation Grants, which supports the development of innovative tools and practices for natural resource conservation on private lands. These are just some of the things that we look at. You talked about easements earlier, and we really focused on our ag land easements, but we also have wetland reserve easements, which is an opportunity to really preserve that wetland function for overall ecosystem benefits in our wetland footprint. So we do offer a suite of opportunities, of course, keeping that conservation technical assistance at the backbone of everything. Certainly keeps us grounded in our conservation work and working through the conservation planning process.
That regional program that you talked about being a collaborative effort, amongst whom? Like collect farmers coming together, or the farmers with the state? Tell us more about that.
Yeah, the Regional Conservation Partnership Program is typically groups and organizations coming together that have a common goal and looking to work in a particular area on resource concerns. That sometimes it is governments, universities, tribes, nonprofit organizations. It's an opportunity for collective groups to come together and, as noted, a partnership to really work on common goals and objectives and turn in proposals when those announcements are made.
Is there a certain acreage limit for something like that? Like it needs to be over X number of acres across different groups?
No, it's very broad. Typically, notice of funding opportunities are distributed nationally whenever those opportunities arise. And that funding opportunity will really outline the specifics of the awards and what the priorities are and the needs for how the partners would work through the process to turn in their proposals.
Got it. Okay. So now I know that when Sister and I went into the FSA office and, where we talk about the things that we want to do, there's not somebody like, oh yeah, look at this program or this practice or whatever. They're just like, there's a wealth of information out there for you. Good luck. May the force be with you. And so when I'm sitting in my NRCS office instead, can I go in there as a dummy that's just like, I know I want to do these things. I know we want to transition our family farm and ranch from this traditional method to a regenerative method. Like, help me. Will somebody sit in there and say, I want you to look at these practices, consider this program, and at least give me a starting place to do my homework?
Yes, I will say that opportunity is there. As with all engagements, though, if you have the more information, I believe that you can provide to your local office, the better they'll be able to assist you with the options for programs. There is a large amount of information. We have some newer hired individuals in some of our field offices that may not be as familiar with some of our programs as they are with others. So I think just having those questions and kind of thinking through that process, certainly if there is information or you leave an office with more questions, please reach out. Our state office staff, as well as our 5 zone offices across the state, are always willing to have that conversation also. So while we encourage you to work with your local offices and build that trust and that connection and that relationship there, please do reach out. We are here to serve you, and whether that's from the zone office, state office, or the field office.
All right. And all that contact info can be found at nrcs.usda.gov/Texas. Kristy,
Perfect.
Thank you so much for your time. We appreciate who you are, what you do, and we will see you in a few months at the State Technical Committee meeting. Will you do a quick little promo before we head out to encourage farmers to join us and share their voice?
Yes, I certainly encourage farmers, ranchers, and foresters to get engaged, be engaged with that local work group meeting. Also, feel free to attend our state technical committee meeting. They are public meetings. They are posted on our website, posted well in advance. And that is really where collective voices in agriculture can come together and make the most impacts. It provides the vital information for me to be able to make decisions specifically for Texas. So if you have any questions on that, please reach out. Continue to watch for updated information on our website. And I certainly look forward to meeting and working with all of you across the landscape.
All right. Thank you so much.
Connect with the Soil Sisters at txsoilsisters.co. Submit questions, guest or show ideas, and sponsorship inquiries. The Soil Sisters podcast was created and produced by Joanna Nuding. Editing and sound design are in the capable hands of the PodConnects Podcast Network.